In America, we have three big parts that make up our criminal justice system: law enforcement, court systems, and corrections facilities. It all starts with law enforcement. A police agency will take an offender into typically their county jail if they are suspected of committing a crime. Within 24 hours of being booked in a jail, they are required to see a judge within 24 hours. The judge will decide whether or not the suspect will be granted bail and how much bail will cost. This is where we move on to the court system. It will typically end in a criminal trial held by a jury. Depending or not whether the suspect is found guilty or not guilty, the process will move to corrections after the sentencing has finished. Any sentencing that requires a sentence less than a year will typically go to a county jail. Anything over a year will result in a trip to prison. Of course, it depends on the case, but corrections may consist of county jail, state prison, federal prison, and juvenile centers. We have built a fairly impressive criminal justice system in America, but like anything, it has flaws, such as private prisons, police brutality, and overpopulation. In recent years, we have seen a rise in police brutality and wrongful police killings, especially among those of minorities. There have been countless videos of it, which is bringing more and more attention to this subject. In the big scale of things, when it is all said and done, these things do not happen often. However, they shouldn't happen at all. A great example is the killing of Daniel Shaver. There's a video posted online. You can find it anywhere. I found it on New York Times. Shaver begged and pleaded for his life several times on his hands and knees before being shot and killed. Instances like this are a flaw in the system. Another big problem for everybody is overpopulation in prisons. There are a lot of facilities in America that have more inmates than they are rated to hold. The entire prisoner population of America consists of over 2.2 million, according to Forbes. Nationwide, that puts our prison population at 103.9% capacity. This is a problem and it should be fixed, but you have to look at it with perspective as well. Countries such as Haiti come in at 454.4% capacity. We need to make sure we never get to that point, which is why we should address this issue sooner rather than later. Another large issue is private prison. When a prison becomes private, the main goal is to make money, not rehabilitate residents. According to the Sentencing Project, we have seen a 47% increase of private prisons since the year 2000. These facilities cut corners on all costs. This results in their employees making an average of $5,000 yearly, less than a government-issued facility. On top of that, private prisons have proved to have 28% more inmate-on-inmate violence. Since July of 1908, the United States has put in place the Uniform Crime Report that is managed by the FBI. This was done to get a better database for crime reporting in hopes of understanding and attaining more details of the crime. Its main purpose, according to their website, is to generate reliable information for its use in law enforcement administration, operation, and management. The UCR consists of law enforcement that reports their crimes to the FBI, and then the FBI compiles the data of crime throughout the country. According to the FBI, the UCR consists of over 18,000 cities that contribute to reporting their crime, which means the UCR represented and accounted for over 98% of the United States population. Since it's been put in place, the United States criminal justice system has gone through many changes and evolution. We've seen the rise and fall of the death penalty, new and improved police tactics, and the changing of some of our court systems. The death penalty used to be pretty loose, meaning that it was a pretty common practice, mostly done by hanging. However, the last hanging in America came in 1972. Nowadays, it is mostly done by lethal injection. As of 2019, 20 states have completely abolished the death penalty. In the year 2018, only 25 executions were performed, 23 coming by lethal injection and 2 coming by the electric chair. Both of those cases that used the electric chair came from Tennessee. So far in the year of 2019, there have only been 3 accounts of execution, both done by lethal injection. Basically, more states are starting to abolish the capital punishment, and more states are starting to primarily use lethal injection, the ones that still use capital punishment. As population rises, more problems arise as well. This means that police forces have to adapt. That's exactly what the city of Philadelphia did in 1964 when they started to see more bank robberies. They made their first SWAT team, and now in 2019, SWAT has become a staple of the police force. They specialize in weapons and tactics and are the first responders to a dire situation such as terrorism or a hostage situation. Basically, once an offender is booked in jail, they then await trial whether or not they got posted on bail. After their trial, they are determined their punishment, whether or not they were found guilty. As I said earlier in the presentation, if the sentencing is less than a year, they will probably be housed in a jail. If it's over a year, it will probably mean a trip to prison. Otherwise, if the defendant, suspect, is a juvenile, they will be sent to a juvenile detention center. The typical criminal trial is done by a jury. Once the jury is selected, which typically consists of 12 jurors, the prosecution or defense can motion to exclude evidence from the trial. The following step will be the opening statements. The opening statements are basically an outline of their opposers' arguments. Following the opening statements, the prosecution case in chief comes next. This is pretty much the prosecutor's main case, which is done by examination of their witnesses. Up next is cross-examination. For example, the defense will cross-examine by asking questions to the prosecution's witnesses in hopes of knocking down their arguments. The defense may then proceed to motion to dismiss if they choose to, but the judge will almost always deny it. The defense case in chief will come next, followed by the prosecutor's cross-examination. Finally, the defense will finish up relaying their case, and the prosecutors will get their chance to rebuttal. The prosecution will then get their chance for their closing argument, followed by the defense closing argument. The closing arguments are meant to summarize their evidence presented and how it should result in the verdict. Finally, this all leads to the sentencing depending on the jury's deliberations.